everyone, hello, and thank you for your wonderful comments and support. My darling friends, I have never in my entire life worked the way I'm working now, but it has to be done. The year started with a few private matters, but it will be okay. We'll battle through it like we always do, and it will just be fine. If not, well, then that will be okay too. So saying that, I did not plan to make a video today because my list of tasks is longer than my arm. I have some urgent work to do out in the garden. I have to cover Dragonman's new school books as school is starting again next Wednesday. And then we also need to start working through his reading matter for the English Olympiad. And at some point, I want to retreat to my room and start working on the list of article submissions and a few for Substack, and so on. I also want to do some editing on some creative writing so I can hand it over for placing on my website next week. Now, sorry to say, but I've never learned how to build a post on a website. Not my niche, not my interest. Anyway, the reason why I'm here is because I am literally seething with anger. And then I look at myself and others and go, how absolutely stupid are we all? How many more times must we or will we fall for the same bullshit and gaslighting Swallow Palace lies, hook, line and sinker? Come on, ladies and gents, can we go, or can we, for a change, take our tinfoil hats off, remove our earplugs and wipe the cobwebs from our eyes? Now, before I get into what I'm irritable about, let me just say this. I read Harry's book, and yes, there is a load of shite in it. But I think sometimes the drugs Harry took have rendered him almost, well, I don't want to say unable to lie, because he has lied. But yeah, in a way, unable to lie. Yeah, he will open his mouth and mimic whatever, whoever, and say what they want him to say. But I think there are times when he is so out of it that the only thing which really exists for him is indeed the truth. Or then let's rather not call it truth, but reality. Maybe sometimes some kind of alternative reality, but reality nonetheless. Remember when he said ayahuasca or whatever wiped his windows or something like that? Well, I don't think that he was actually lying at the time. I do think he gets moments of clarity, and then he doesn't like that clarity. It doesn't suit him. It makes him upset or whatever, and then he takes more drugs. Now, before I get any further into my rant, remember when Harry said he warned his father about Dr. Bin Mahfouz? Well, he did. Did his father pay any attention? No. Harry met the man once and walked away. But what did Charles do? He took money from him and had his aide arrange an OBE and citizenship for dear old Dr. Mahfouz. Now, please, I beg of you to listen to what I have to say next. And I'm calling on big channels like Dan Wootton, Lady C, Neil Sean, BBC, ITV, GB News, and anyone with a big platform to please listen, because I am telling you the truth, not my truth or any other freaking truth, but the truth. I hear so many now saying that it is bullshit that Harry got his security back, that it is wishful thinking, it is again manifesting in the press, that Ravik or the Ravik committee did not work over Christmas, that they are still investigating, that if he gets it, then it will be the lowest tier. Maybe just a bodyguard who will hold his hand and have a drink with him. My dears, you know I love you so much, but I despair at how naive some of you can be. And that includes the Royal Rota and some people who call themselves journalists, okay? Because, you know, it saddens me that real journalists are no longer doing their homework. Remember when Harry said his father could put an end to his cases against Ravik by simply lifting the phone? Remember when we all, myself included, so I'm not pointing fingers, said that Charles can't do anything because the royal security is decided for them by Ravik and Homeland Security and the Metropolitan Police and so forth and so forth. Well, my darlings, that was bullshit, rubbish, effing nonsense. And Harry, sorry to say, was right. And for me, that makes it even worse. And I'm so angry. I'm angry because for 5 years, myself, believed the bullshit we were told and read and listened to. I mean, all that crap. I'm angry because a drug adult, low-ish IQ guy is right and I was wrong. And I'm angry because the most dangerous liar of all is actually sitting on the throne, literally and figuratively flying his freaking toilet seat around the world when I can't even go and see my children. I was again recently accused of hating King Charles. And you know what? My dislike of the man is indeed intensifying by the day. And the next time someone says, I hate him, I may even agree. The truth is that yes, the King, old Charles himself, does have contact, does have power and does have influence over Ravik. And no wonder Harry is so angry at his father. Although I personally still firmly believe, that Harry should not get state-funded security because he walked away from the job. If I'm honest with myself and knowing what I know now, I would also likely have been livid, crazy angry if I was Harry, the king's son. Okay, so before I carry on, let me explain, and explain with receipts, before I have an entire video made about my delusions and imaginary friends and, oh yeah, yes, I'm sorry. I'm still seething, but let's move on. Who and what is Ravik? Ravik is part of the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. So we'll get to why it's called Ravek. Not that I really care. Now, Ravek's job, okay, is to oversee or shall I say the Executive Committee's job is to oversee the executive arrangements for key public figures in Great Britain, and then Ravek's job is to assess the risks, whether from terrorism, extremism, stalkers, whatever. Now, just before I carry on, I read a very interesting article, and I think it may be, a positive thing or very interesting to you too. It's called Prince Harry, Security and Ravek. Does the Court of Appeal ruling really imprison other members of the royal family? And it's written by one called Francesca Jackson in the website called the Constitution Unit blog. Now, I recommend the article. It is really a good read. Anyway, the risks and assessments are done by a committee, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. And there you have it, Ravek. Okay. Now, Ravek is the committee within the Executive Committee which does the assessment and make the recommendations as to who needs protection and how much of it. And then they also oversee the budget. So, who actually makes up this committee? Now, hang on to your underwear, your wigs, your hats, or your false teeth, because here it comes. On the committee is, number 1, the Director General of Homeland Security Group. Number 2, a Deputy Director from the National Security Secretariat. Number 3, the Deputy Assistant Commissioner of Specialist Operations and Head of Royalty and Specialist Protection from the Metropolitan Police. And last, but certainly not least, at number 4, a minimum of 2 members of the royal household, which always includes the monarch's private secretary and currently 2 others. Thus, you've got it right. There are currently 3 members of the royal household in the Ravek committee. I rest my case. No, I'm not resting my case. So every time Harry comes near the United Kingdom, the king, his father, runs for the hills because God forbid they should be seen together. Wow, the people may just think the king is interfering with Harry's court cases, and oh no, 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 no. We cannot have that. Oh no, not at all. I mean, my wife and I most certainly don't want that. Oh, fuck off, Charlie. Fuck right off, you yellow-bellied liar. So, Sir Clive Alderton, Charles's private secretary since September 8, 2022, the day of the Queen's death, sits on the Ravek committee. The same Sir Clive Alderton, who also served as the principal private secretary to the Prince of Wales, who used to be Prince Charles at the time. And he filled that position from 2015. So Sir Clive, who had now been working for Charles for 10 plus years, okay, that is the man representing him on the Rave Committee. Now let me tell you this. If Charles tells Clive Alderton, jump, Sir Clive asks, how high? If Charles tells him to wipe his arse, Sir Clive asks, can't I kiss it instead? And how do I know that? Because if that was not the case, Sir Clive would have been long gone. He would have joined a whole list of others who had been kicked under the proverbial derriere out of the palace because they were no longer yes men. Now, except that we only know who the monarch's private secretary is and therefore the name of at least one member of the Rave Committee. Okay? The rest of the Rave Committee is traditionally shrouded in secrecy, which I incidentally also think is bloody wrong. And why do I think it's wrong? Well, because they are operating and working with your tax money. So why on God's green earth don't you have a say or at least know who is representing you? However, it appears that the current chairman may be one Sir Richard Mottram. Now, I've no idea who he is, but maybe you do. It only takes a Google search to also know that the current Director General of the Homeland Security Group is Chloe Squires. The Deputy Director from the National Security Secretariat could be Matthew Collins or Jonathan Powell. There are a few Deputy Directors, but these two actually qualify to sit on the committee. The others are more technical, administrative, etc. Then the Deputy Assistant Commissioner of Specialist Operations on the committee is likely John Saville. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole story why I think it would be him. Anyway, then there are obviously now currently 3 members of the royal household, which we now know includes Sir Clive Alderton. So, as there are 10 members in the committee, who are the other 5? Now, I'm going to take a guess, okay? A guess, again, based on information. But before I do that, please remember, I can swim, I do not drink, I do not have a chauffeur who drinks either. I have sold my motorcycle years ago. I don't go skiing so that an avalanche can get me, okay? So, you know, as long as you get that and understand that, all right, then I'm happy to give you the rest of the information. So I'm guessing 2 of the other 5 are both from the Metropolitan Police. One being Daniel Hatton, a lead on protection stationed at Windsor Castle, and Chris Conrad, another key figure in the Protection Command structure. Now, I've no idea who the other two from the royal household are, but it would be someone like Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Thompson, who had been closely involved with Charles's personal security, and I mean that even all the way through his cancer treatment. So it would definitely, be someone like that who has insight into his personal security, his personal life, his health, and someone who has over a period of time proven to be very, very trustworthy and, closed mouth 100%. We've never heard a squeak about the royals out of Johnny Thompson. So it will be someone like that. Okay, so please, my sweethearts, my darlings, see the picture clearly. Charles can run to the end of the earth and he can still holler, Clive, Johnny, Daniel, and one or all three of them will come running. So he does not even need a bloody phone to tell them which way to vote. So please, I beg of you to not even try to convince me that Charles did not have a hand in this last security review. There's currently nothing you can say or do to convince me that Charles did not arrange the review. And I believe the full reinstatement of Harry's taxpayer-funded security. Absolutely nothing. Do not waste your time or your breath. The Executive Committee, the Metropolitan Police et al., did not just one day decide to change their mind and give Harry his review. Not after they won in court 3 times and won the appeal. If you believe that, then, my dears, I have a bridge to sell you. A bridge over a dry river. Well, actually, I do have one. It's just not mine to sell. Okay, guys, it gets worse, but I'm tired of talking now. I had a bit of a tough day, but when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. There are days, maybe once in 5 or 10 years, when I also cry for my daddy or my grandma to come help me or hold my hand or give me advice. But mine are long gone, so I just have to tough it out. Something old H has been hairless, have never learned to do, and now I'm going to have another of my favorite, very expensive coffee, my 3rd one for the day, because if I don't, I'm likely going to kick something before the day is over. So please take care of yourselves and stay safe. But having said that, I'm going to leave you with this. It's something by Ella Wheeler Wilcox, speaking about moral cowardice. To sin by silence when we should protest makes cowards out of men. Well, true that. Okay, my dears. Bye.